David Whitman thought he knew his son, until a surprise visit to the school cafeteria shattered everything. Sitting alone, staring at a cold plate of food, Liam trembled under the watchful eye of a teacher who wasn't what he seemed. What David saw next filled him with anger and fear, signs of a silent suffering he had missed for months. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching? David Whitman, a renowned architect from Seattle, lived a life dictated by blueprints, deadlines, and client meetings. His career was thriving, yet it came at a steep personal cost. At home, his 9-year-old son, Liam, existed in a quiet shadow, polite, reserved, and often disappearing into his own world of sketches and silent games. David loved his son deeply, but years of long hours and business trips had created a subtle distance he barely noticed. One rainy Tuesday, David decided, almost on a whim, to take a break from his hectic schedule. He wanted to surprise Liam at school during lunch, a simple gesture he had never done before. Walking into the bustling cafeteria, he expected to see the usual chaos, chattering students, lunch trays clattering, and teachers trying to maintain order. But what he saw made his heart sink. Liam was sitting alone at a small corner table, hunched over his lunch, eyes downcast. His tray held a plate of cold food, barely touched. Nearby, Mr. Langford, a teacher assigned as Liam's mentor, stood over him with a rigid posture and a gaze that felt more judgmental than caring. Every so often, Mr. Langford spoke sharply to Liam, and the boy's shoulders trembled slightly as he responded in whispers, almost as if trying not to exist. David froze for a moment, disbelief and rising anger intertwining. He had seen small signs of stress at home, Liam's reluctance to eat, frequent headaches, and the occasional tearful night, but he had brushed them off as normal school pressures. Now the puzzle pieces were falling into place. As he watched, Liam slowly picked up his fork, and with a faint tremor, began to eat the cold food in front of him. David's chest tightened with a mix of fear and fury. How had he not noticed this earlier? How could he have trusted Mr. Langford, assuming his son was safe? He stepped closer, keeping a careful distance so as not to startle Liam. Every small gesture from the teacher, an impatient sigh, a critical glance, cut into David like a blade. It became glaringly obvious that Liam wasn't just stressed, he was being pressured, intimidated, and emotionally manipulated. David's mind raced. This was not simply a matter of discipline or learning. His son's health, both mental and physical, was at stake. Without a moment's hesitation, he signaled to Liam to pack up his things. Liam looked at his father with a mixture of surprise, relief, and fear, as though unsure if this sudden intervention was real. As they walked out of the cafeteria, David felt a surge of determination. He vowed silently that he would uncover the truth, protect his son at all costs, and ensure no other child would endure what Liam had been silently suffering through. The quiet bond between father and son was about to be tested, but David knew this was the moment their lives would begin to change for the better. David could hardly speak as he guided Liam out of the cafeteria, his mind swirling with anger and disbelief. The image of his small son, hunched and fearful, replayed relentlessly in his mind. He felt a deep pang of guilt. He had been so absorbed in work that he had failed to notice the subtle cries for help right under his nose. Liam's quiet demeanor at home, his refusal to eat certain meals, and the sudden withdrawal from his favorite games now all made sense. Once in the car, David watched his son in the rearview mirror. Liam stared blankly ahead, clutching his lunch bag like a lifeline. David gently asked if he was hungry, if anything had happened at school, but Liam only shook his head. The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken words and lingering fear. David realized that this was not a single incident. It had been happening for months, maybe longer. Without hesitation, David decided to take Liam to the doctor. He knew that emotional stress could manifest physically, and he feared the worst. At the clinic, the doctor examined Liam carefully, noting signs of prolonged stress, fatigue, paleness, slow reflexes, and low appetite. "It's clear he's under significant psychological pressure," the doctor explained. "He needs rest, support, and perhaps counseling, and whatever is happening at school must be addressed immediately." David's anger surged. How could an institution meant to nurture children allow such treatment? How could he, as a father, have trusted the wrong person with his son's well-being? He realized that the quiet, compliant nature of Liam had been mistaken for resilience, when in fact it was silent suffering. Later that evening, at home, David sat beside Liam on the couch. He held his son's hand gently and promised that no one would hurt him again. Liam finally whispered a few words about Mr. Langford, about the constant pressure, the sharp words, and the impossible expectations. Each detail pierced David's heart, but it also ignited a determination stronger than any fear or doubt. David knew that confronting the situation would not be easy. He had to gather evidence, speak to the school board, and protect his son from further trauma. But he also knew one thing for certain: Liam's safety and emotional recovery were non-negotiable. He began to plan meticulously, meeting lawyers, documenting every incident, and preparing to challenge the system that had allowed such cruelty to exist. As Liam rested that night, David sat awake, reflecting on the lessons this crisis had forced upon him. The life he had been living, one of relentless work and superficial success, had nearly cost him his son's happiness. He vowed silently that nothing, not even his career, would take precedence over Liam from this point forward. The battle ahead would be challenging, but it was necessary, and he was ready. For the first time in months, a small flicker of hope appeared in Liam's eyes. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but David recognized it. It was trust, a fragile yet powerful bridge between father and son, now strengthened by the promise of protection, understanding, and love. The journey to justice and healing had begun, and there was no turning back. The next morning, David awoke with a sense of purpose sharper than ever. Liam was still quiet, but his eyes held a glimmer of curiosity rather than fear. David knew the first step was to confront the problem head-on. He arranged a meeting with the school principal, armed with notes, observations, and a careful account of what he had seen. The tension in the principal's office was palpable. David's calm but firm demeanor left no room for dismissal. He recounted the cafeteria incident in detail, explaining the signs of stress he had noticed at home and the concerning behavior of Mr. Langford. The principal listened, initially with a guarded expression, but as David presented evidence and shared his unwavering concern for Liam's well-being, the gravity of the situation became undeniable. A formal investigation was immediately initiated. Meanwhile, David sought to protect Liam from the ongoing emotional toll. He arranged for him to spend time with a child psychologist, someone who could help him process the fear, pressure, and confusion he had endured. The sessions were slow at first. Liam hesitated to speak, to reveal the silent torment he had carried for so long. But under careful guidance and a patient environment, he began to open up, sharing small fragments of his daily struggles, each one a testament to his resilience. As the investigation progressed, David discovered that Liam's experience was not isolated. Other students and staff members came forward, revealing a pattern of manipulation and harsh treatment by Mr. Langford. The school community was shocked. The man who had presented himself as a mentor had concealed a rigid, often cruel approach to discipline. The scandal spread quickly, forcing the school administration to take swift and decisive action. Throughout this tumultuous period, David prioritized time with Liam above all else. They began simple routines, reading together in the mornings, drawing in the evenings, and spending quiet afternoons in the park. Slowly, Liam's laughter returned, tentative at first, then growing stronger with each day. The bond between father and son deepened, no longer just a connection of obligation, but one rooted in trust, love, and mutual understanding. David also realized that his own life required change. Work had to be balanced, responsibilities delegated, and priorities reassessed. The crisis with Liam became a catalyst for transformation. He started leaving the office early, attending parent-teacher meetings, and being fully present in his son's life. Liam's recovery was mirrored in David's awakening, each drawing strength from the other. By the end of the month, the school had suspended Mr. Langford pending a full inquiry, and parents began advocating for stricter oversight and child protection measures. David, once solely focused on professional success, found a new purpose in ensuring that no child under his care would ever feel invisible or unsafe. Liam, too, began to embrace life with cautious optimism, learning to express his feelings openly and explore the world with a renewed sense of confidence. This chapter of their lives was far from over, but the foundation had been laid. Trust had been restored, Justice was being pursued, and the shadows of fear that once clouded Liam's small world were gradually giving way to light. David knew that their journey together would be long and sometimes challenging, but for the first time in a long time, he felt certain of one thing: they were moving forward, and together, they could overcome anything. Weeks passed, and David and Liam began to settle into a new rhythm. The tension that had gripped their lives slowly loosened its hold. David transferred Liam to a new school, one known for its supportive teachers and nurturing environment. Liam's small steps toward normalcy became daily victories. He raised his hand in class, laughed at playground games, and even shared his colorful drawings with his teachers. Each smile, each hesitant gesture of confidence was a testament to his resilience and to the father's unwavering dedication. At home, David created an environment that celebrated openness and creativity. Evenings became their sacred time. They would sit in the backyard, warm tea for David, sketchbooks for Liam, surrounded by the gentle glow of the setting sun. Liam began filling page after page with bright landscapes, happy families, and playful animals. Gone were the dark shadows that had once dominated his drawings. David marveled at how much courage and hope could be packed into the delicate strokes of a child's hand. The emotional scars were not erased overnight, but the love and presence of his father worked like a balm. Liam began to confide in David freely about school, friendships, and even his lingering fears. David listened, advised, and comforted, never allowing old patterns of neglect to return. The bond between them, once fragile and distant, now radiated trust and deep understanding. Meanwhile, the investigation into Mr. Langford reached its conclusion. The school took decisive action, implementing stricter oversight, training for staff, and protective measures to ensure no child would endure similar emotional pressure. David's determination had not only safeguarded his son, but had sparked a broader change that benefited countless other students. One quiet evening, as they watched the stars emerge in the clear night sky, Liam leaned against his father and whispered, "I feel safe now, Dad." David felt an overwhelming surge of emotion, relief, pride, and a profound love. The darkness that had haunted their lives was replaced by hope, and for the first time in months, they could breathe freely. David realized that this chapter had taught him the true value of presence, vigilance, and unconditional support. Success in business or wealth was meaningless without the safety and happiness of his child. He vowed never to let ambition overshadow his role as a father again. Liam, in turn, began to embrace life fully, unafraid of challenges, knowing his father's hand would always guide him. As they sat together, sketches scattered across the patio table, David smiled and said softly, "This is just the beginning, Liam. Our life together is going to be brighter than ever." Liam grinned, his eyes shining, no longer timid or fearful. They had survived the storm, and now, a calm, hopeful chapter awaited them. The old story of fear and neglect was over. A new, vibrant journey had begun, one they would walk together, hand in hand, ready to face the future with courage, love, and unwavering trust.